Welcome back to MathSpark. In this video, we're going to talk about practicing our mathematics using MyMathTest. So fire up your laptop, go to www.mymathtest.com, and let's sign in since we've already registered. So we'll need to remember our username and our password, and then sign in. Once again, we'll be taken to this portal screen, and we would like to enter MyMathTest, which will launch a new window. This is the MyMathTest dashboard, a quick rundown of important pieces of information that MyMathTest is going to give to you. Across the top, there's a calendar. The calendar will keep track of what the current day is, together with any of the work you've done. For example, yesterday, we logged into MyMathTest and I took my first diagnostic test. On the side, there's a results window, which includes the current test score that I got on a diagnostic test, together with my program timeline showing progress of tests as I've taken them. And right now I only have one test taken. There will be an upcoming announcements widget, which will show any important information that you might need for your class. Over summer, it's probably just going to be that first diagnostic test, and then features that will go online for you to practice with. There's also an announcements widget, which includes information that might come from the department or from Pearson. What I want us to do today is talk about how we can study and practice. We took a test last time. Now we'd like to go and improve on our results. And so to do that, I'm going to go over to the sidebar here and select Study Plan. This brings me to the study plan sheet that we saw last time. It's a nice visual cue or description of the types of skills you're going to need to succeed in whatever class you're planning on taking in fall. I mentioned in the previous podcast that the more shaded a topic is, the more mastery you've demonstrated based off of what you've done in MyMathTest. And for us, that would be the one diagnostic test. Sections that are completely white, I haven't demonstrated any skill set for. And sections who are part blue and part white, I've demonstrated a little bit of skill for. Ideally, I would like to be able to have all of these things blue and to be able to score at a 75% or higher on a diagnostic test. So what I can do with any of these topics in order to make them more blue is to select one. So let me, for example, select R53 on exponents and polynomials. When I click on it, this takes me to a study plan page that's going to help me understand multiplying polynomials. It's pointed out that I've earned one of 3 mastery points in this particular skill set, probably because of something I did on the diagnostic test. The 2 skills I haven't yet demonstrated are finding products using the rectangular method and multiplying a monomial and a polynomial. Now, to get practice with these, in case I'm not quite sure what it means, I can go over to the practice button. When I select practice, something that looks like the diagnostic test from yesterday will pop up. In this case, I'm going to have a quiz that has 2 problems, which I can go back and forth on, and I can practice with these. So, for example, choose the product which equals x plus 6 times x plus 1 below, and I've got a multiple choice question. Now, one of the things I can do is I can jump over to scratch paper and try this out, but what if you don't remember how to do a problem like this? Fortunately, there are some helping features that allow me to work my way through. One of the helping features is to view an example. So if I select this, a new window will pop up, and it will walk its way through, in this case, it's a rectangular method to find the product of x plus 4 and x plus 7. I label a rectangle with each turn. I'll select Continue to move on to the next screen. I put the product of each pair of monomials in the appropriate box, so x times x is x squared, 4 times x is 4x, x times 7 is 7x, and 4 times 7 is 28. The product of the original binomials is the sum of these 4 monomial products, so we'll add those 4 expressions up, x squared plus 7x plus 4x plus 28. And since the 7x and the 4x are the same, I'll combine the like terms. So the View an Example allows me to work through a similar type product with all of the steps explained. When I'm done, I can close this window. A second option is the Help Me Solve This. The Help Me Solve This button will walk us through this particular example by giving us the steps that we sort of need. So, for example, to do the rectangular method, I have to put the monomials in here. So there's the x and the 6 here. I guess in this case, I'm going to need the x and the 1. So once I put my answer in, I'll check my answer. In this case, it says that I've done it right. All right. The next step in the problem is to write the products of each of the pairs in. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. x times 6 is 6x, and 6 times 1 is 6. All right, got that step done. The next thing I've got to go and do is to add up the 4 entries inside the rectangle that I've got. So x squared plus 1x plus 6x plus 6. I can combine those like terms. Now suppose I got it wrong. I do 1x plus 6x and I get 16x because I'm not paying attention. If I check my answer, it's going to give me a little warning error. In this case, add more carefully. So let's try that again. 1 plus 6 should actually be 7. And I've got that part. And so the question is complete. And now I can go back and identify which one was my correct answer, although the numbers have shifted around. So in this case, if we did the square method, we got x squared plus 7x plus 6, which is that one. So now I will select check answer. I got it done. All right. So I get a little check mark up here, which indicates that I've done this particular problem. Now, if you want to practice with this methodology, you could select a similar exercise. So if I go and click similar exercise, I'm going to get another version of the same kind of problem. In this case, using the rectangular method to work out the product of x plus 5 times x plus 5. I'll leave you to do the rectangular method to come up with x squared plus 10x plus 25. Once I've completed working on problem 1 and I'm comfortable with it, I've done enough examples that I'm happy, I can move over to problem 2. Problem 2 says use the rectangular method to find a slightly larger product. Again, I can attempt to do this by hand. If I've never seen this method before, I can go and look at an example. So if I view an example, the rectangular product or the rectangular method is going to be pretty much the same thing, except now that I have a binomial 2 terms and a trinomial 3 terms, I'm going to have more terms in the rectangle to fill in. Let me try this on my own on scratch paper. So if I jump over here to the scratch paper, I can now try to apply that rectangular method. So let's see, I'm going to first set up my rectangle with the terms from the first monomial, x and 5, and the terms from the second monomial, x squared, 8x, and 7. And then I'll give myself the entries in the rectangle. So let's see, x times x squared is x cubed, x times 8x is 8 times x, or x squared, x times 7 is 7x, 5 times x squared is 5x squared, 5 times 8x is 5 times 8, or 40x, and 5 times 7 is 35. And so we've got the entries in the rectangle. The method simply says that we take these entries and we add them up. So we've got x cubed, 8x squared, 7x, 5x squared, 40x, and 35. And so I've added up all of these entries. I notice that there are some like terms in this. We have an 8x squared and a 15x squared, so those added together get me 13x squared. I also have a 7x and a 40x, so if I add those together, I get 47x. And then I have the other terms who were not like terms, the x cubed and the 35. And so I find that my answer is x cubed plus 13x squared plus 47x plus 35. So let's go and see if we can find this in my math test. And woohoo! It's a choice D. So I'll select choice D, check my answer, and I've got it done. And so again, now that I've done this problem, I can select a similar exercise if I'd like to practice some more. Or, having done all of this practice and I feel I'm comfortable with it, I can close the window and go back to the study plan. Now you might have noticed that the Quiz Me button has now turned green. And the Quiz Me buttons are how we show MyMathTest that we have mastery of these concepts. So in the next video, I'll show you how to use the Quiz Me feature. And you'll be on your way of being a master of mathematics, at least for your prerequisites.